up. I know that they need to get going. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's session for Splinters, which is a roundtable discussion just by WPMA members. I want a couple housekeeping notes. I want to let people know that the call will not last over an hour or less. At 10 o'clock, if we're still talking, I do have to shut it off and stop everybody. Also, the session will be recorded. So if you'd like to review it or learn something again, talk to someone or have some people at your facility, go back and look at the listen to it, you can do that. Just get in touch with Michelle and she'll help you with that. Want everybody to remember that all you can do is ask questions. There's not going to be any script. There's no time limit. This is just a talking session to help people with different things. Any questions on that? All right, the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to start with Andy Tatolis. Andy, could you just please let everybody know what your company is doing right now? Because you're doing something a little bit unique and I think could benefit a lot of people.
Okay, good morning. Thanks for having me attend this wonderful meeting, first of all. And I hope this is the beginning of something that I'll be a little bit more, this will push me to be a little bit more involved with you guys. So I appreciate the invitation to be here. What do? We have two major core business activities. The first one is our kiln drying process, okay, that we've developed in-house. The second one is actually taking that kiln dried material, transforming it into stair parts for residential use, particularly stair treads, risers, pretty much anything lineal at that point. So that's essentially what we do.
All right. One of the things, Andy, that really stuck in my mind that you guys do is you have the ability to track things through your facility, and a lot of people don't do that. Your dad had said he knows where all of his material comes from. Can you explain that? Because that's something I think that could be very, very helpful to a lot of people.
Okay, so that idea for us, my father was always really, really big on, like he was very much a control freak, I would say, on the production floor. And some of us are like that, some of us really aren't. We don't really care as long as the bottom line at the end of the month kind of works. But no, he was very much a control freak. He wanted to know yields on a very timely basis. That tied with the idea of being FSC, I guess, compliant or certified, tied in. And that was years ago. Now we're talking about, my gosh, that was 15 years ago, probably, where we started really thinking about that. And so basically what we've come down to is we have really, really isolated batches well enough that we can really figure out the performance of our shop and of the material, literally batch per batch. And we really keep it in a very controlled way from one operation to the next, so that at the end of and even if we do mix, which can happen, it's in a very controlled manner. So at the end of the day, when we do produce material, we know exactly where it came from. All the way down to, I mean, if we've dried our own lumber, we even know the harvest date, or the harvest month, I should say, and the county that the lumber came from. That's how far back we can go.
Wow, very good. All right,
Yeah.
Thank you. That's good. Andrew Jeffrey, can you please tell us a little bit about what you're doing? Because the board, you were very intriguing with some of the board last time, what you do. And I know that John Lentini wants to talk to you about some of the work that you're doing with the 3D printing, and he wants to know about that. So can you explain what you're doing? And then you had said yesterday that you might have a little video. I would like to see that if we could do that.
Okay, let me see if I can pull that up. But basically what we do is 3D print using sawdust as our raw material. And we're a new company. I started the company in October 2019. So last year, which was sort of a really strange year. I just really spent the whole time in the lab, just perfecting the process and looking at different types of wood and what we needed in the sawdust to be able to 3D print it. And then we introduced color as well, and that was we're able to 3D print color onto the sawdust, and that kind of flicked the switch in my head. Thinking, hey, we can actually print any veneer type onto the sawdust, and it's in the wood. It's so we can reproduce the look of almost any image that you could send, that we could get, and reproduce that image onto the wood. So that impetus was actually in response to an auto company that asked us about 3D printing, the wooden parts in a dashboard. So so that was, that's really what has happened. And since October, we've become part of a much larger company, 3D printing machine manufacturing company, Desktop Metal. And we're kind of a little left field from the metal people, but we're planning to establish a manufacturing facility with a fleet of 3D printing machines, 3D printing wooden objects for architectural and interior design applications primarily, but we hope to branch into other segments that use wooden products as we grow the company.
Andrew, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Could you make a rosette with your
Yes.
machine?
Definitely. Yeah.
Any shape?
Any shape, any design. Yep.
Out of different species of wood or just one kind of sawdust?
Well, we can make it look like any species in the machine, but we're using some wood flour, I guess, from American wood fiber, and the primary requirement for the sawdust is we have to be able to spread it in a thin layer, and that layer is about between 100 and 150 microns thick. So that's, a tenth to, a sixth of a millimeter thick. And if we can't do that, we can't 3D print it.
Well, once it's been 3D printed, do you have to sand it to make it smooth after that?
We have to depowder it so that the part is encased in the sawdust when it comes out of the machine. We then remove all that sort of unbound sawdust using compressed air, and we then we infiltrate it with a resin to make it so it ends up being a composite type material, and then we can finish it in enough, any conventional finishing techniques. So you can sand it. We're working on automating that process, so putting it in a tumbler where we can smooth the part out using media to remove any of the sort of the high spots in the part.
So your uniqueness is that you're using sawdust as compared to some other type of material that a normal 3D printer would use.
Yeah, we've replaced other materials such as metal and plastic with sawdust, and we're sort of very high on the one of our core values is sustainability. So we're aiming to make the entire part out of recycled materials, sawdust, and using bioresins to infiltrate the part.
Andy, if you're looking for a tumbler, please let me know, because we'll put something in the newsletter, because a number of people have bought different tumblers for different companies, and some people are trying to sell them.
Oh, okay.
We will put that in the newsletter. It won't cost you anything. No, but I'm just saying that it might help somebody say, hey, look, I got one in the back room. Let me give him a call and see if he wants to buy it.
Yeah, no, that'd be perfect. Thanks, Phil.
Go ahead, John, sorry.
Yeah, Andrew, I've got a job right now that I'm making rosettes and plint blocks for, and I'm attaching them to a casings in my shop using a butterfly type joint. You've probably seen those. Would the density of the sawdust be secure enough to be able to do that?
Yes, yeah, it can be, once we infiltrate it, it can be, attached in any way. It has about twice the strength of, you know, uh, conventional wood. And the strength is pretty isotropic, so it's the same in every direction. We don't have the sort of the anisotropic sort of strength that you typically get with a piece of wood. So we're looking at, potentially looking at structural elements as well. But initially we're mostly looking at just decorative elements. And, a new thing we're just looking at is making acoustic panels from wood as well. So we've got some designs in that area that we'll be working on over the next few months.
Is there a length specification in what you do?
Right now there is. We have the largest piece we can make is 500 millimeters long, so 20 inches. We're looking at a new machine which will be able to produce parts 2 meters long. So that's sort of where we're going with our technology. But we won't have that machine available till probably the last quarter of this year. So there's a fair bit of development involved in getting that up and running.
How long does it take you to process? I mean, I give you an order for 500 rosettes, for instance. How long would it take you to process that?
Well, depending on the size. And
4 by 4, 4 inches by 4 inches by 3/4 thick.
Okay, so we could do that. We could probably do that in a couple of days.
Really?
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, it really just, our scale up is depending on the number of machines. So we have, if we want to double production, we just add another machine, and we've doubled our production rates. And we're starting off with 5 machines.
I just gave Maggie that order, Charles. I mean, Phil.
Jeez. Wow. Charles, I know that you sent an email that you're having a hard time talking, and I just want to know why you're willing to be on the call, if there's anything you'd like to try to share or not. I don't want to put you in a spot. I appreciate you there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
I'm back. Sorry. Yeah, I was having a little bit of technical difficulties with my speaker, and my voice too. You can hear. I have a hard time.
I just didn't know if there's anything that's really unique that you're doing that you'd like to share, because the whole topic was on automation and coming up with new technologies to generate new business, like the sawdust that Andy's working with. Anything you'd like to share?
And I'm sorry, I missed the sawdust situation that Andy's working with. My speaker, for some reason, I'm having problems when I plug into my port here. I just heard a little bit was going on with sawdust, but I didn't pick up what was going on.
Andy, Andrew, do you want to just take 5 seconds, give him a 30-second thumbnail sketch what you're doing?
Yeah, Charles, we use 3D printers with sawdust as the raw material. So we jet binder onto the sawdust. We spread the sawdust in a thin layer, jet binder, and build the parts layer by layer, and then remove the parts from the sawdust bed and depowder them, and then infiltrate them with resin. And we can make pretty much any shape using that process.
Interesting. That
Yeah.
sounds like that's more advanced than what we are. We're just making briquettes with our sawdust and then burn it.
We can print briquettes as well.
Yeah. Probably be a little more expensive than it costs for us to press them.
I was, joking aside, I was thinking of printing kitty litter, in really interesting shapes. But
Could have some fun. Yeah.
Hey, Charles, if you're going to start from square one, would you do the briquettes again, as opposed to selling the sawdust?
That's a good question, depending on the day you ask me. So, and the time of the year. The short answer, yes, I think I would do it again. All depends what for market you have for your sawdust. Obviously, when we go to sell our sawdust in the market right now, we don't do as well as when we briquette it, but we also don't have markets established for our sawdust. So usually when we sell it, we're in a dire need because our presses are down or something of that nature. So yeah, my short answer is yes, I would do it again. Would I want to be in the business of buying sawdust and making briquettes? No, I don't think so. Less headaches. There'd be less headaches in just selling the sawdust, I think, than making the briquettes, because obviously now we have a whole marketing thing and inventory situation and just more to add there. But overall, it's been a good thing for us. It fits well.
Yeah, we just sell the sawdust to people who do make the pellets.
Yeah.
And toyed with the idea more than once about should we be getting into the pellet business, which my advice to my partner has always been, let's sell the sawdust, but he's a manufacturing guy, so he says, let's make the pellets. So.
Well, we have trouble getting sawdust to our specification. We want really the finest sawdust that we can get. So right now we're getting a minus 140 mesh. I'd like to be able to get a minus 200 mesh sawdust. And we're all, and also the shape of the wood dust is important as well. So we want more sort of less fiber and more kind of blocky shapes of the sawdust. And right now from AWF, we get a mixture of maple and oak. And depending on the proportion of each of those components, we get better, or we can 3D print it more easily or less easily. And more oak seems to be better for us to 3D print, although it has a different effect on the color of the part. So we're still working through all different types of sawdust that we can get. We've tried some teak. Teak seems to work fairly well, but we've got to be pretty careful with teak dust. We're going to try some mahogany as well.
Have you used poplar?
Sorry?
Have you ever tried using poplar?
No, we haven't. No.
Well, where are you located, Andrew?
We're in Burlington, Massachusetts.
My God. We're in Concord, New Hampshire. We produce 2 trailer loads of sawdust a day,
Wow.
primarily poplar.
Yeah. Well, we can, one of the things, the sawdust is almost, other than the shipping cost, is an insignificant, I like to say we could 3D print gold and it wouldn't have any effect on our prices. And yeah, that's where the raw material cost almost doesn't make any difference to us. So we're prepared to pay for a very highly spec'd sawdust, as long as we get the right particle size. And, we're currently putting in sizing equipment so we can size, we can get sawdust from anyone, then size it specifically to our size range. And we're putting in grinding equipment as well, so we can grind it up to a finer size. And potentially that opens us up to using sort of sawdust from anyone. We can process it in-house to the particular size requirements that we need to 3D print.
Yeah, we're producing primarily molded chips. I'm not sure how that relates to the particle size you're talking about. They probably are certainly bigger than powder.
Almost everything is bigger. We're looking at, we want size ranges sort of around, ideal size ranges around about 65 microns. That's 240 mesh if you use some meshes. So, that's kind of the sweet spot for us.
Interesting.
Doug Cummings, have you got anything that you'd like to share a little bit? Because I know you guys are doing some unique things down there.
I had more of a question for Andy about the software that he's using for tracking everything. Was that something that you built in house, or was that something you purchased?
That's something we're building. It's tracking, we have economies of scale of one, so we could be making 20,000 objects, but every single one is different. And we need to be able to track every single object. We're actually working on that. I've had a couple of 3D printing businesses, and part tracking is the most difficult thing. So we're starting to look at some software from a company called Tulip, which is built up on modules that we can assemble, and we can create workflows for each part, and have that displayed on a screen for the operator. So we're looking to kind of automate this and remove the paper from any process that we have. So everything is on a screen or an iPad or something like that people can just look at in the factory, and immediately know what the process is for the object that they've got. How you recognize, sort of recognizing, what a different object is also difficult. So I've been working on, sort of artificial intelligence and big data to try and work out how we can immediately identify an object just by scanning it, and then be able to recognize what needs to be done to that object. But it's a huge problem for 3D printing. If we have a bed with, say, 1,000 objects, where every object is different, and we pull it out of the bed and we've got to match that object up with a customer order, it's a challenge.
Thank you. How about the other Andy? Can you tell us a little bit about how you're tracking yours?
Sure. When it comes to tracking, you have to be systemic about it. You have to have, we do have an in-house developed software at this point. I brought in a couple guys that I know through school, and in fact, my educational background is in information systems. So before you even start thinking about computerizing, you have to have a system that works, and your best way to test that is a paper-based system. As painful as that sounds, guys, garbage in, garbage out. And honestly, don't expect a software company to figure out your process for you. It won't happen. You can't pay them enough. You can't pay them enough to do it. So you need to really just kind of sit down, figure out your own process, figure out where you want to take your process. What do you want from it? What do you want to track? What kind of performance analytics do you want to really hone in on? And then after that, yeah, you can start talking about, centralizing that data, mining that data, start seeing trends, and start making some really, really intelligent decisions with that data. Does that kind of answer the question a little bit, or?
Funny, and you're echoing what I bought into about 20 years ago, was a system that was giving us all kinds of information that meant nothing.
Yeah. Well, the question I always ask, we can track stuff, and then I say, well, what if we had to do this 1,000 times a day? How would that look? And we just trying to work out, if we have a part in CAD, it might be the same looking part, but each one has a different number that we actually build on the part when we make it. And we have to decide, is that a different part, or is it the same part with a different, because if one doesn't print correctly, it's got to go back into the production queue, and identifying those exceptions is kind of difficult for us. And, we have to decide whether we're going to ship everything minus the one that didn't print, or do we wait for that one to arrive till we ship? All of those kind of decisions we have to make all the time. And and for each customer, it can be different as well. So it's a challenge. John, I've got a question for you. With your rosettes, how is the design defined? Is that a CAD file that you
It's
use?
a CAD file. This one came from a customer we have in Florida. Actually, the stuff's going to the Turks Hotel out in the Caribbean somewhere. But we're actually doing something different. We're actually applying the rosettes to our lineal casing, which is new to us. But we don't say no to very many things anymore. So we figured a way of doing it. And the rosettes were tricky. We have a rosette machine that we can turn them, but these were one, if you can imagine taking a molding, making a square out of it and making 45-degree cuts in it, angle cuts, and putting it back together. So it was a unique, we couldn't do it on our rosette machine. It's being done on a CNC machine. And I'm just thinking about what you're describing here, saying, in this case, it's being painted. I don't think it'd make any difference what the material was underneath it. In fact, we're using cherry because of we think we won't have to sand it as much once we receive it. And if your sawdust would work with little less sanding, I'm not sure. I wish I'd have known you 2 weeks ago.
Well, I'm not sure. We just literally got our machine from California this week, and we had it up and running yesterday. So we had to move it, my whole factory, from California to Massachusetts. So we're sort of gradually getting things running.
Well, I'm sure, and I'll be back in April from Florida, as you can see, but I'm sure we're going to take a ride down and see you.
Yeah.
There's got to be some mutual deal we can make with you for something, even if it's not for the sawdust.
Yeah.
Like I say, we produce a lot of it. So
yeah.
And you never know. That's what we have these meetings for, right, Phil?
That's right. Now I've got a question for you guys without giving away any confidential information. Nothing confidential, please. But do you think that by automating and putting in new technologies, percentage-wise, how much has it helped your business? Without giving any numbers or anything confidential.
I'd say it's huge for us. That's the way of the future.
Yeah, I mean, labor
and honestly, employees like it better. The staff likes it better usually.
Really? I know that's an idea. It's an angle I never thought of, that helps keep staff there.
Well, we just put a new ripsaw system in, Phil, and I guess in 6 months I'll tell you. But the way they're claiming our waste factor should go down by 10 to 15%.
What'd you put in for ripsaw?
It was by
Ramen?
no, it was made by Taylor. You know, the Taylor clamping.
Yeah.
They've got a place in Poughkeepsie that assembles everything. I'm not sure where the saw was made, but it was the saw, the handling system, the computer, all by them and all guaranteed by them. So we decided to give them the whole package.
Nice.
So we shall see.
No. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to know, Doug, have you noticed anything changes in your business?
I mean, we're busy, and what we've done over the last really 2 years has been trying to put some automation so that we're not downpiling after every part of the process. So on our press line, the plywood feeds through the applicator roller. We put the lamellas on, it comes out of the press, it transfers up to the molder. We have a power feeder now at the molder. So we're trying to do more with less people. I mean, everybody knows that employees are tough to find. Good employees are tough to find and get. So we have a great core team. And so we've tried to put them in better positions to, overlook an area versus being necessarily just an operator. The operator part of it is we're trying to automate some of those functions. So, we'll see. We've done a lot with, internally. We've built these conveyors and transfer systems, and we're really just trying to make things more efficient to help boost output without adding more employees, because it's just a revolving door.
Good, thank you. Andy Tajolos, how about you guys, Andy?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Automation. Any new technologies obviously help. They help a lot. They help, and they should. I mean, if they don't, then you're not. Then either you're not implementing it correctly, or it's not for you, right? At the end of the day. Um, but kind of like what I guess to kind of piggyback on a little bit of what the other guys are saying. Um, if you bring it in properly, you can get really good buy-in from your shop floor guys, and that's where the real value is. It's getting the guys on board, getting them engaged, and that's the other thing. That's the other. It's always it's a bit of a tussle, isn't it? Because on one hand, um, you bring in automation to whether it's to increase your rate of production, improve consistency, right? Um, but honestly, one of the major factors for us is actually getting our core guys more engaged with what they do. It's a really, really funny thing. You're like, well, wait a second. If you're automating something, it means you're taking certain decisions off their shoulders. But yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. I don't want them to think about little decisions. I want them to think about bigger decisions. I want them to add value, real value to the product, not piling. Piling's not adding value to my product. Um, However, making the decisions on what was piled and how it was piled, there's value there, major value.
Never thought of that. Thank you. Andy, Jeffrey, anything that you'd like to share on that?
Yeah, I mean, 3D printing is all about automation. I mean, the one thing I really like about it is, being able to switch the machines on at the end of, like our day shift, for example, and then the machines just print by themselves unattended overnight. And the next morning you come in and there's a whole, set of parts that have been made without any person involved in it. But when we look at our cost per part, the sawdust is 0.0001 cent per cubic centimeter. Labor is 4 cents per cubic centimeter. So that gives you the idea of the cost of raw materials versus the cost of finishing the part once we get it out of the machines. So I'm looking at every aspect of automation, whether it's robotics, automatic depower, all sorts of anything that we can automate, we'll try and automate.
I don't know about the rest of you, but is there anybody that would like to take a couple minutes? Andy, Jeffrey, by any chance, would you have any parts that you could show us, things that you guys have done, or a little video or something? I would like to take a couple minutes to see this because this is a new concept for us.
Let me this is from yesterday when we started this machine up. I'll see if I can get this video up.
That'd be great.
So, okay, let me see if I can share my screen here. Can you let me share this?
Michelle?
Yeah,
Michelle's going to do that for you, Andy.
Okay, great.
She's our whiz behind the scenes here. She better never leave. I'm in trouble. So while we're doing that, John Lentini, you really do look like you're out of the golf course.
Tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Tomorrow, 1, yeah.
Actually, I have a question for Charles. What type of sawdust do you guys produce or use?
Lots of it.
It would be hardwoods, predominantly red oak, and then probably the next one would be poplar, and then maples, soft and hard maples, some beech, but all hardwoods.
Hardwood hardwood works best for us. So
Okay.
softwoods are, you know, don't seem to 3D print very well at all.
Okay. Yeah.
Andrew, how
yeah.
much do you use?
Well,
What do you
not a
think we'll be
lot.
using?
You know, we use, you know, right now we're, you know, in our machines, we fill it with about 15 kilograms of wood powder per machine, and all of it gets recycled. We use almost 98% of the sawdust we put in the machines gets turned into parts. So it's very efficient. We're hoping to use a lot of it, but we're sort of using in the 1 ton type ranges per month. That's okay. Let's see if I can do this. All right. So
There we go.
can you see that? So this was just yesterday. We just literally fired this machine up yesterday morning, and this is just a couple of minutes. This is our slowest machine. It takes about a minute per layer. Our new machines will do a layer in 10 seconds per layer. So that's just spread a thin layer of sawdust. And now the print head's going backwards and forwards and joining that sawdust together. These are test bars that we're going to be testing for bending strength.
Hmm.
You can see that around the edge is actually the wood grain. So there's we're 3D printing the wood grain onto the part as we're making the part. So
Did you ever do any other differential with one? Did you ever go higher? Yeah.
sorry. That was there was some voice on that from me. I should have switched that off. Hang on. Okay. Sorry, what was that question? Someone have a question?
Andrew, is this pressing it down or just, I'm not sure how this is working.
We have a roller that we spread that spreads the sawdust. We can control every aspect of that roller. So we can control the speed of the roller, the speed of that crosshead that goes over the bed. And, you know, my objective is to get this takes about a minute per layer. The next machines, we want to be doing several layers per minute. So around 10 seconds per layer. And also we want to increase the layer thickness. This is printing at 0.13 of a millimeter. So I want to get our layer thickness up to 0.3 of a millimeter. And that will, you know, just by doing that will over double our production rate per layer, but also the increase in layer speed will get us to building a couple of millimeters per minute. So if we can do that, we can, you know, we're really in a big production scenario.
Andy, I got a question for you. Ballpark, how do your prices compare with solid wood? Are they in the ballpark? They high, low? I understand you can control the production, do some unique things, but how do they compare with solid wood?
You know, it costs the same price for us to produce a brick as a highly designed screen, so, you know, highly pierced screen. So we, you know, for example, we're kind of competitive, you know, we're at the higher end, but in the same ballpark. You know, we've got pricing realities that we have to meet. And for example, for complex wood and tiles with acoustic properties, you know, we can do that for around $20 to $30 per square foot with you know, completely finished. This is a finished part ready to assemble in a building. For furniture, we again, for finished furniture pieces, you know, for example, a chair, we can 3D print that for around $300, fully finished, ready to, you know, sit on. So, you know, the more complex the part is, the, almost the less expensive it is for us to make.
Okay, they're just trying to get an idea. Thank you.
Yeah. Dashboard panels, I think we're going to be very competitive in that area. So it's kind of interesting if you look at, cars, there's less money being spent on the drivetrain in cars and more money being spent on the interior. That's the one component of a car that's increasing in its value. And, we think we can participate in a big way in, car interiors using our 3D printed wood products.
Any other items that people would like to discuss? Any questions? I'd like to ask you, can you think of some topics that we should have as future topics for the Splinter session that you'd like to see done?
Phil, any topic to me, if you get 6, 8, 10 people like this talking to each other is good. I've learned a
Okay.
lot today from Andrew and Charles and whether I should put a pellet machine is. And Andy, I've been selling stair parts in New England for 45 years, so I understand exactly what he's talking about. And sometimes just hearing other people talk, boy, you just don't know what you're gonna, what kind of knowledge you're gonna get.
I agree.
What do you think?
I totally agree. I mean, I think it's, just, again, getting a few people together and sharing ideas, even though we're not necessarily in the same, making the same things, hearing how other people do it is, just invaluable.
I mean, I'd like to hear about, joinery. That's one thing that, I don't know if people focus on that, or, actually how you adhesives and things like that, sort of some chemistry related stuff.
I think we should encourage Maggie to get on, Phil.
Or laminates as well.
Okay. Anything else that you'd like to cover? I mean, I think it's very helpful just to get together like this once a month and talk, because like you said, John, you learn a lot from other people. I just want to make sure that we're offering things that people would like to attend, like to share what they're doing.
I want to get Pete on and see his golf course in Myrtle Beach. That's what I want to see.
All right, you do that. All right.
You other three know what I'm joking about. We've been another good friend who owns a cheer company and in the deepest parts of New York where the snow is deep in the Buffalo area. And he goes to Myrtle Beach every year for 6 months, and we joke about what golf courses we play.
Yeah. All right, if there's no other questions, I don't want to belabor the fact. I appreciate everybody taking the time out of their schedule to attend today's session. And hopefully, you'll be able to attend, or somebody else from your company will be able to attend a future session.
Phil, can I tell them my other Pete's story?
Go ahead, sure.
We were at a national convention for WPMA maybe 15 years ago in Orlando. And we were both, it was a board of directors meeting, and Pete's former owner made an announcement at the meeting that he was going to be his last meeting because he sold the company. And didn't make much sense to me at the time, but it was fine. We're sitting at the bar with Pete, who was his production manager at the time. And I said, I hear you have a new boss. And he said, yeah, me. He bought the company from the owner, and he bought it because the owner was not reinvesting money in the company, and he saw no future in the company. So I said to him, how'd you do it? And he says, I got a what's the word I'm trying to think of? A negotiator that I know to negotiate for me with the owner to buy the company out over a period of years, and they made it work. Well, I went back to my partner right now and told him the story. We hired the same negotiator and bought Boyce Highlands through this negotiator. And I would have never thought of the idea that I had not been having a drink at a WPMA meeting with another member.
It's true.
So that's how deep the relationships of some of these people go. And why, I mean, you three are sort of new, but why we encourage people to go to the meetings just because you're talking. And so if I'm inviting all three to go to our next meeting. You just never know who you're going to meet.
John, it's a great point. I mean, we've been members now for I think 6 or 7 years, and I got to meet John and lots of other people that we just got involved from the get-go. We had sold our company to another, our manufacturing company to another a large Spanish organization, and we spun off and started off really small and veneer components. And if it hadn't been through WPMA, we started finding new customers as we expanded into our engineered flooring business, just because of being members and talking and getting involved in the board of directors. And it's been great. So can't say enough about WPMA and what they offer for networking and getting together with people.
I would echo what Doug and John said too. It's always great to get out and network. I know the last few years I haven't been out as much due to more responsibilities at home and 3 young kids. I'm trying to invest into them, so I've pulled back in the business world some right now. But that's one thing I miss, is just getting out and networking.
Good. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you guys taking the time to attend, and hopefully we can get together and see you in the future. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.